Ladies and gentlemen, we are back right here for another movie review. This is DC's brand new Black Adam starring Dwayne The Rock Johnson. I have the full team on deck here, and I'm talking about Lucas and Jorge. What's going on, gentlemen?
What is going on, everybody?
Hello,
Yeah.
everybody. Mad you said full team, like Nat ain't missing, but it's fine.
Hey, you know,
We'll let you
Matt.
get that off. We're
Look,
gonna
if
let you
Nat,
get that off. I'm gonna let you get that off right now.
look,
Shout out to
I don't
Matt.
need those problems.
Shout out to Nat, to Ant, to Mike, to Ronan. I'm gonna shout out everybody else because Sam was so disrespectful and saying the whole team was here. It's fine though.
You know what I mean. Anyway, I'm not gonna go there. But yeah, you guys, we had the opportunity of being able to check out Black Adam earlier today, and we're gonna go and give you guys an overview review. This is non-spoiler, so we're not gonna be going through any secrets. We're not gonna be talking about anything that we want to talk about, but we're gonna go and kind of dissect it. We're gonna be really quick and to the point about it. So we've had how many superhero movies this year, Lucas? Roughly?
Uh,
Yeah.
well, just movies. I
Yeah, just
want to say,
superhero
is it
movies.
just three?
There hasn't been that.
Just three
Like
this year?
it hasn't been that many this year so far. Because Doctor Strange was that
Um.
this year or was that last year?
Oh God, I forgot all about that movie existed.
I think that was
That came out last year.
yeah.
No, it is this year.
Yeah, because the last
Batman, Strange, Thor, Love and Thunder, uh, and the greatest movie ever made, Morbius. I think all of those came out this year, and then it's Black Adam.
got it. But this is the technically it's the only DC movie that they're gonna release out because Shazam comes out in beginning of next year. Is that right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, that and Aquaman and Flash and everything else comes out next year. So this is the only DC comic movie that you're gonna second technically because Batman is the first. So
Right.
this is the second DC comic film you're gonna get this year.
Right. So okay, let's go ahead and just get down to it. So I'm just gonna ask straight up, like, did you guys enjoy your experience watching this movie? Was this something that you were entertained by? Did this feel like it was a waste of your time? Was it kind of like okay? The only reason why I'm asking this straight up like this, because the last superhero movie I got was Thor 4, and Lucas did something to me to mess me up with that, where he let me linger
Uh,
on it and think about it, and I personally did not like that movie whatsoever. And the more I think about it, the worse it gets. But I was curious y'all's perspective on this. Like, what was your experience watching Black Adam up front? Lucas, I'll let you go first.
is it because I didn't do the reaction with you all that you want my opinion
No,
first?
I'm
That's
just
fine.
curious.
That's fine.
I'm really curious, actually.
So am I just doing first initial reaction?
Yeah, his first initial reaction is just like after coming out of it.
After coming out of this spectacle, because that's what this is a huge spectacle of a film. After coming out of this film, all I thought was, wow, I could have done anything else with my day. And I was stuck watching this really bad movie for 2 hours. That's what I thought leaving Black Adam. Is that oh my god, I got a headache. I fell asleep at little parts of it. Like it I've never had a movie be boring and action pack at the same time. This is a rarity for me. So when leaving out, my initial thoughts was, wow, I hope this isn't like how the hierarchy of the DC universe is supposed to change. Because if this is what it is, then I need to never see another DC movie.
That's perfect. Now, Jorge, what was your first initial? Again, we're gonna be going shooting rather. We have not. None of us have spoken about what we really feel about it. So I'm really curious. Jorge, what was your initial thoughts going out of it?
I think I'm gonna call Lucas Stephen A. Smith moving forward. He's just that's rough, man. Now this movie, I really enjoyed it. There were a couple things that I could have like nitpicked from it, but I think looking at this not just from a single movie, but kind of how the direction that this takes the DC universe, I think this movie is going to be very pivotal from that part. But no, I thought this was great. I thought the action scenes were good. It reminded me a lot of the 300, like some of the ways that they shot some of the shots and all that. Um, there were a few things that I was not a fan of. I'll straight up say that, and we can go into that a little bit later on.
Yeah.
But no, my initial reaction was no. I thoroughly enjoyed this, and I think I hate saying it this way, but The Rock was a big enough star that this is gonna make a ton of money, which will in turn like re-energize the DC universe, which it's kind of what they should be doing at this point in time.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Two different things we're going to segue into is kind of what the financial box office is going to look like for this, as well as certain things we didn't like about the movie. So my personal outtake on it, everything with the JSA, I really enjoyed. Like if the movie was based off of just them, and then it revolved around like, oh wow, what is this powerful being Black Adam? I think that storyline was something that could have been really gold. Everything that was with the humans, everything that was surrounding the area, like it was very campy, it was very cheesy. I couldn't vibe with any of that. But they made it a part of the story arc. So it was kind of like there were times I was like, wow, this is really awesome. Then there was times like, no, get that character out of there. But I think that they tried to make it really sweet and sincere, to make it, hospitable for like other people that are watching it from PG-13 rating, but it just came across really campy. Lucas brings up Spider-Man 2 all the time. One of the things that Spider-Man 2 had, it had very excellent balance. Like there was a balance of campiness, and then there was another thing of story-driven like narrative. And it's kind of like you have some great characters in this movie that I really loved and some great moments, but then there was some things that I felt like, man, they just didn't need to be in this movie. But we're going to go and break it all down. So things that we didn't like, I think we'll go off of that first. Jorge, I'll let you go on deck, then I'll go and I'll let Lucas lead off. And then what we'll do is talk about things that we felt like they did right, and things that I feel like this could move things forward a certain kind of way. But yeah, Jorge, you first on things you didn't like.
Yeah, I'll say I know you brought up the people aspect of it, so I'm not going to say that one. I think something that kind of let me down was the music that they chose throughout the movie.
You mean the score or the soundtrack?
I'll say the soundtrack more than the score. Okay. I was very let down. There was really only one song that I truly enjoyed, or like it made sense,
Kanye.
Yeah. That's the only one. But no, I think that was one of the bigger things, for me. Other than that, I think kind of like what you said with the people aspect of it. I felt this was supposed to be like a Black Adam movie, and at times it almost felt like you were more invested in, like this one, group of, it ended up being what, like 3 people, like like wife or like woman, son, and like
brother,
uncle, I think. Yeah. Or brother, yeah, something like that. It mirrored more on that sometimes, that I felt, that was a big thing. And then I think the length, like I think 2 hours. I mean, you probably could have cut out some of the people stuff from it, and this movie would have been equally as good for me. But those are my only few complaints.
Yeah. For me, honestly, I agree with Jorge about the length. Like there was a point, I think in the second act, and I was like, all right, I'm really invested to see where this is gonna go. And then it kind of crescendos, and I was like, is the movie about to end? This is really weird. And then all of a sudden it picks back up and it goes to a whole different arc. And it deflated the pacing for whatever reason. So I can imagine some people that are looking at it and like the action, and then all of a sudden they just kind of like let go. I can see some people kind of like knee-jerk reaction of how this is actually happening. But the whole beginning of it didn't land for me. And a part of it was they were trying to do a misdirect. I'm not going to explain what I mean by that, but they tried to do a really clever misdirect. But if you watch the trailers, you already know where this is going to go. If anything, you're going to be confused. It's like, wait, that's not how this story goes, But I think that may be something they should have, I don't know, handled on the marketing side, but it just didn't work as far as the beginning. And then the biggest trade-off for me was, unfortunately, the little boy, his mom, and the uncle, like every time they were on screen, and every like soldier that was a part of certain gang, their dialogue was just terrible. The dialogue was really bad, and just the way they used them, it just didn't make sense. It was kind of like it was grounds for a lot of death, which I'll talk about that in a little bit. That might be part of my positives and negatives, but it just didn't work because I didn't invest in any of the human characters. I was completely invested in certain characters in the JSA, two specifically. Other two, I don't know, but yeah, those were the biggest things in my negatives. And I agree with you. I think that the score was not the best. Not the soundtrack. Like song stuff was okay, but the actual score, there are moments I was kind of like, oh, okay, this could be a really emotionally resonant moment. And instead, it just didn't sound that good. It felt really flat for some strange reason. And normally DC they're really good when it comes to the score and the soundtrack. So I don't know. I don't know what was a miss there, but those were some of the negatives I have. I don't want to pick it apart because I want to go and break through all the things we're trying to talk about. Lucas, you're next on deck.
So we're going to start with, this is one of the worst first acts I've ever seen in any movie, let alone a superhero movie. This first act is boring and action-packed. That's what I meant by it's so confusing that it's so boring and yet so action-packed. The score is horrendous in this film. The soundtrack is bad in this film. The mixing is bad in this film. Yeah. The direction is bad in this film. The story is bad in this film. The plot is bad in this film. But the biggest issue I have, this is the most disrespectful film when it comes to the DC property that I've ever seen. You literally dropped one of the greatest teams in the history of this comic book into this film. And if you didn't know who these people were, you would be lost. If you didn't know who Dr. Fate was, you wouldn't know who the hell Pierce Brosnan is playing. If you didn't know who Hawkman was, you wouldn't know who this ripoff from Wakanda who shows up on screen. You wouldn't have the slightest idea who this man is. Like, and the other two characters are completely throwaways who are not necessary for this film. And then you take Intergang, which should be this huge force, and make them into putties. Just a bunch of putties that The Rock can kill at his free will. This movie is completely disrespectful to everything DC stood for at one point in time. And it wipes the slate clean and makes me wonder, at this point, is it even a purpose for them to continue making movies after what I just saw them do with Black Adam? So those are my negatives. It's more, but again, there's no need to harp on like the horrible acting. Clearly, after everything I said, the acting couldn't be good in this movie. As Sam and Jorge has said, the humans, and I'm not even going to call them humans because that makes no sense because these are superheroes. So I shouldn't be isolating. For me to call them humans would be me saying this is a Transformers movie, which is very close to being Transformers 4, The Last King. A movie feels a lot like that movie. So just to call them humans would be a disservice to the film. But the aspect of the regular people's story and this little kid who couldn't act his way out of a paper bag they have as being the highlight of this movie is horrendous. It makes no sense at all. It's like they were confused on what the tone of this movie should be. They got confused on if we're going to go super dark or are we going to keep the Rock's core base. And when you get those two against each other, you get a film that doesn't know what it needs to be. So you get one instance where you get these Shazam humorous moments with this little kid, and then the next minute The Rock is ripping people in half.
Hard.
Like,
right?
It makes no sense. Like, oh my God, this myth. I didn't like any element of this film. I can almost skip the whole part of what did you like about this movie? Not a thing. Like, I just did not like this movie. It makes and I will apologize for everybody for Thor Love and Thunder because I thought that would be the worst superhero movie I saw this year. And boy, did Black Adam say, hold my beer. But yeah, like there's nothing I liked about this movie. I hated everything about this movie. But go ahead. What's next?
No, we're going to go through things that we liked or things that felt like were possibly highlights to go over. So yeah, Jorge, I'll go first because Lucas is probably going to tap out for that one. I feel like Lucas can find something, but
I can find something. Yeah, sure.
But yeah, I'll go first. So one of the things I thought was really interesting was I when I went to Comic-Con, and they kind of showed like how The Rock started. It was weird because it wasn't how it started in the movie. Because what I saw at Comic-Con, it was no dialogue. It was like they were uncovering like a certain thing, and then all of a sudden, like all hell breaks loose. No cheesy dialogue. It was like, this is epic. But then one of the things I loved was he was just not giving a care about whatever was in his way, he was just destroying. I love that. I love that aspect of a unstoppable force that just couldn't care about the ramifications behind it. Because then you're like, the contrast is, how do you keep that person in check? That's where kind of the JSA kind of comes in. Those are some of the things I really like, because consistently Hawkman is continuously trying to assess, like, okay, no, you can't do this. This might be quicker, but you can't do this. But I think Pierce Brosnan's Dr. Fate, I thought it was really interesting. I love how they utilize him. I thought his suit, his visuals, his perspective. I thought, matter of fact, the first and second act with him, I thought were near perfect for a great introduction to him. The third act, I didn't like the way they kind of handle certain things with him, but I think that them two specifically were the highlights for me. If they weren't in this movie, I don't think The Rock could save any of the action, or no matter how much death the things were happening, they had to be that balance for me to feel not only entertained, but like, okay, yeah, represent the JSA. And to Lucas's point, if they would have added other real core members of the JSA into this, it may have been a completely different story. Matter of fact, it probably would have been a JSA movie, because they would have been the highlight. All the rest of the human element, and if you use The Rock as like this unstoppable force that you're trying to stop, I think that would have came over a lot better than the narrative that they picked with this. The other thing I thought was really interesting is The Rock. I mean, I think that I knew that he was going to be entertaining. I think that I don't like some of the dialogue choices they have with the character. The character, to me, he was flip-flopping tonally. There were times like his one-liners were like, okay, this is the Black Adam I was waiting for. And then there were times it just didn't work. So it's a positive and a negative. I get why they did it. But I don't know. You sacrifice something trying to hit the core base and trying to hit that PG-13 rating in doing this, because it just doesn't work. I feel like they did something like Suicide Squad. I'm like, that worked. You saw that could work. So why not go for it? I don't know. And then the last thing that we can't really talk too much about, but I do love certain key characters that they're playing into this, because that leads me to believe that the story that we've seen in the past is going to kind of continue. What I mean by that is early versions of what DCEU was. They may be continuing that in some capacity. That I appreciate, because I did love some of the things in the previous DCU. So those were the biggest highlights that I had. But Jorge, what were some of the things that you liked about?
Yeah, no, I think The Rock. I actually thought he did a great job for what he was. He really didn't have that many. If you think about it, he really didn't have that many lines in the movie per se. Like, it was just mostly him doing, beating people up, and like, I think Lucas said, ripping people in half.
Yeah, it was a lot of death, you guys. I apologize. Yeah. This is a whole. I can't tell you what his body count was, but it was a huge number.
lot. A lot. No, I think this. I actually enjoyed the action of it. I think there's one of those movies that you could probably. Well, I won't go there because that's more of a negative. So. Wise with The Rock, I enjoyed the way that they shot some of these action scenes. I think this just kind of falls a little bit into like what Venom fell into, where like if Venom was just a full-blown rated R movie, it probably would have been a lot better. If Black Adam would have been a straight up rated R movie, I think it would have been better in the sense. But I think when you're looking at the bigger picture of it, you're trying to see how you can insert Black Adam into the Shazam crowd, into all these other, DC entities. So from that aspect of it, I do appreciate that they're kind of looking at this from the long picture, not just this one solitary film. I will say I do agree that some of the jokes, didn't all hit. I did like I will say probably what's his name? So Dr. Fate, I like the way that they portrayed him and the CGI that they used for him. I really enjoyed.
Mhm.
Hawkman, I enjoyed his one-liner. The other two, I don't even remember their names. I'm gonna be really honest.
Adam Smasher and oh crap.
Cyclone.
Yep. There
Cyclone.
you go, Lucas. You remember one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I
Yeah.
think hearing what you just said a little bit ago, where if this would have been, a JSA movie where you introduce Black Adam, I think that would have been a stronger, like if he would have been the heel of this movie, it would
Yeah.
have been a little bit nicer. Because I think, for me, it's like the other than having like Pierce Brosnan in it, like his character was, I thought was very well done, but you kind of keep looking at it and you're like, what are the other two there for?
Yeah.
And you look at this, society, which should be like this super powerful group,
Mhm.
and they kind of minimize it. Almost, I think, Lucas, you were the one who called the guys putties, which is
It's so weird he said it because I wanted to say putties, but I was like, I'm not gonna. But Lucas beat me to it.
Hey, look,
yeah, but I think that part of it is probably, for me, it's nice that they introduced this other group, but at the same time, it's like they really didn't. They kind of
Mhm.
just highlighted, an A-lister. Pierce Brosnan, I mean, he's a phenomenal actor. Seeing him in this role was really nice. But, it's almost like transitioned over to what's his Hawkman. But once again, like the other two, like,
Yeah, that's why I was like, I mean, say hypothetically speaking, they had like Starman in this, or like it's weird because I don't know if
Star
they can.
Girl. They can
No,
literally have Star Girl in here.
well, see,
Yes, they can, because the television shows have nothing to do with the movies.
but I
Completely
thought
separate.
that I thought they couldn't share
Yes,
characters. I
yes, they
thought that.
can. I mean, look at Suicide Squad. You clearly can at this point. They don't care anymore. They
Yeah.
they do not care about the sharing between. So you take that, you Minuteman, which is the other big
Now
strong
that would
force
have
of a
been
person,
that would have been dope.
would made sense. I mean, down to the point where, again, because you don't give a proper introduction to the JSA and who they actually are. And again, all we see is this black man in African print suit show up. And then we know, for some odd reason, the JSA works for Amanda Waller. And the whole purpose of them needing to get Black Adam, we don't even understand the purpose because it doesn't fully make sense. And then when he's naming a team, when she says,
Wait,
seems kind of green. No, it's not a spoiler for her to say it seems kind of green, because we know this because they've been talking about these are two newer members who's supposed to be in the JSA. They literally say they look kind of green, and then he brings up Dr. Fate.
Mhm.
Pierce Brosnan is the only positive thing I can think of in this movie. The issue is that it's still disrespectful towards Dr. Fate the way that they used him, because this is a huge character.
Very.
Like this is a really big character. Is it me, or did he just seem like he just was not equipped to fight anybody? And how the heck is that the case with Dr. Fate? We
So
know what Dr. Fate is. We know how strong Dr. Fate is. And they really limit him in this film. But Pierce Brosnan does a great job as the character. His effects are better than Doctor Strange effects.
oh yeah,
Especially when they
yes,
do the
for sure.
mirror universe and things of that nature with his magic. The effects look better than they do in universe of or multiverse of madness, or the madness of it all of that film. But it still just becomes across just disrespectful. But other than that, it's Pierce Brosnan's the best thing in this film. He's just, that character's not in it enough. Like, we know the history of Dr. Fate. If I didn't know, if just watching the cartoons, I don't even read comic books. I just know from the cartoons that the helmet literally talks to Dr. Fate.
Yeah.
That Dr. Fate can't even take off the helmet unless the helmet wants him to take it off.
Right.
And in this movie, he is repeatedly removing his helmet. It felt like Halo when the Master Chief was just moving his helmet at will. And you're like, wait a minute. This is not supposed to be the case.
Yeah, he
That's why
definitely got
in
a
the third
Iron
act,
Man
something
hug.
really in the third act, something really cool happens between Dr. Fate and Hawkman and the big bad in the film. That made sense. because of we understand what the helmet is. And I say, okay, that's a cool effect to do with Dr. Fate. But the point that we don't get that respect throughout the rest of the movie is the issue. As you said, it could have been a much better movie if you would have said, hey, this is definitely a Black Adam movie, but he's going to have to fight the JSA. And we need the real JSA, and we need to build up who they are so people know, like, hey, this is this organization that protects the world. And then he's a threat. So clearly they're going to go to protect the threat. They literally make the JSA seem like a bunch of rookies by one statement a human makes about you're saving us from Black Adam, but yet still we've had these other people here controlling us for 25 years and you all didn't show up at all to help us.
Okay.
Like that one line kind of kills anything for the JSA.
So
it makes them seem like they're pointless.
So there's one thing I'll say, and I'll agree with Lucas on this, because there's one moment when you see the facility of the JSA, you're gonna kind of question, wait, how are they this well organized and the Justice League aren't where they need to kind of be? And then, like Lucas said, I think this goes back to one of the problems I had with Thor. I can't believe I'm talking about Thor again. If Jane Foster was the focal point of Thor 4, that would have been a better movie. If the JSA would have been a good focal point for this film, it would have added so much more. And then you get into the history of the JSA and the previous members of them. Like, dude, like the connective tissue the JSA has with
a
DC.
Previous member of the JSA.
That's what I'm saying.
Wonder Woman clearly exists in this universe.
So
what happened if you brought up the history of them and her before the Justice League existed? She was part of the JSA.
Right.
If you'd have put,
but anyway, we're gonna keep it.
Again, it's just to me, it goes to the grander scope of things. Of if you give 1 star, and that's something Jorge brought up when he said, The Rock could help. This is where The Rock hurts films, because you gave him complete control. Yeah. Do you think he was going to do a situation where someone else will be highlighted just as much as he was in this movie? I would say no.
Anywho, the last bit of this is our closing ratings. This is hard, not necessarily hard as far as rating the movie, but it's just not been a good year for superhero films. I can never say, like, I don't care how many times I watch this movie, I'll never watch Thor 4 again. Thor 4 is one of the worst films I see. I still hear the screaming goats in the back of my ears right now, and I still don't understand why Thor. Oh my gosh! Anyway, I'm gonna let that go.
Just go past it. Just go past it. Give
your
score. And again,
as far as my final thoughts on this movie, I think there was some definitely thrilling, entertaining moments. The VFX worked really good at times. I think they used a lot of slow-mo scenes that they didn't need. They used a little bit too much at times.
Way too much.
But the humans, I just can't get over any of the humans in this. And it's sad because, I think this was supposed to be really important. But it makes me kind of be like,
I hate that you and Jorge keep on saying that.
I just can't.
You all make this sound like a Transformers movie. I hope y'all understand that.
You're making
it sound like a Transformers movie.
No, but you know what we mean. Like, everybody's watching, you'll understand what we mean. There's in the third act, there's something that everybody does, and I swear you think DDT. That's all I'm gonna see. Like Diamond Dallas Page. That's all I'm gonna say. But
I would have said Jay-Z. Because clearly, that's what I thought when I first saw it.
Aaron said the same. Anyway, I rest this at a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. I rest it probably right at a 6.5. This will be something I'll rewatch again.
We give it a number
for the moments.
We did that.
But yeah. Oh, well, I guess we can't talk about it. But there is a mid-credit scene.
I mean, unfortunately, everybody and their mama knows about it. I don't know if you all know about it going into it, but it is literally articles up because DC has decided to use this as a marketing ploy. That's the only reason this scene was shot. So there are articles up in Vanity Fair, Variety, Hollywood Reporter, Deadline, everybody, and it's been up for a week now, detailing this scene to a T. It's literally an article up right now about the future of DC on Hollywood Reporter, and they will tell you exactly what happens in the scene.
Yeah.
And Warner Brothers isn't stopping them from doing it because they need to use that scene to attempt to boost the box office for this movie.
Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about it. If
It
you
is
don't
what it
want to be
is.
spoiled, just don't look at it. Wait
That's
till
why.
Friday.
That's why I named.
Thursday.
That's why I named the publications. Do not look, because all the publications are talking about it. Matter of fact, don't look at anything with The Rock, because he's talking about it in everything humanly possible.
Yeah. Sorry about that, you guys. Jorge, what's your rating and final thoughts?
I think I really enjoyed this movie for what it was. Like when I judge superhero movies, I judge them very differently. And I see how this can kind of change the tide for the DC universe. I'd probably rate this, I mean, realistically, 8 out of 10. Just because I think we're gonna look back on this, and this is almost like that hump over the curve where movies moving forward will definitely be a little bit more different, I think. It will be interesting to see how, now that this came out, how Shazam 2 is going to come out, because I think that's the next DC movie that's coming out.
That'll Flash.
Yeah, it's one of those. Well, either way, I think when those come out, I think it'll be interesting to see how they end up.
These two just don't fit.
Yeah, that's your yin and yang right there.
They just don't fit.
But anyway, aren't they supposed to be like that? Like Shazam is a kid, so it's supposed to be more childlike than Black Adam.
No. Anywho, go ahead.
Yeah, but I think this will end up. I think this will, by the numbers, box office, I think this is going to do great. I think that, realistically, yeah, I'll still stick with my 8 out of 10. I enjoyed it. For what it was and what it is, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. Lucas, final closing thoughts and rating, and then the last thing we're going to talk about is what this looks like as far as box office. That'll be the last thing we'll talk about.
Because we gave Thor a letter grade and not a number grade. I'm trying to be fair, because I think if I was held in a room by captors and threatened to be waterboarded, I think I would watch this before I watch Thor Love and Thunder. So out of a number grade, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10, because I think I would have went a lot worse on Thor than that. This movie is just not. This is something that I wouldn't want to watch again, unless like it was on like TNT with commercials and I can leave and I could just skip multiple parts of the film. It's so messed up with its tone. I do believe that possibly The Rock's ego got involved in the way that they formulated the rest of the team, and it's violence for no reason for most of the film. And when it's violence for no reason for most of the film, it just doesn't work. So yeah, 4 out of 10 maybe. I would go lower, but I'm not sure. I probably would have gave Thor 1 out of 10 or 0 out of 10. So yeah, at least a 4 out of 10, because it has some value in the second act. But
yeah, second act.
It's just gonna take a lot to get to that second act, and you're gonna have to know a lot of other things to get to the second act. And my God, that little boy is so annoying in this movie. Oh, I never wanted a kid to die before, and it's a scene in the movie where I wanted the kid to die, and I knew then that maybe this isn't the movie for me.
So Lucas, it's not. I'm not gonna say I felt that way, but there was a moment where this little kid was skateboarding around a hotel, and I was like, no.
I yelled out, "Shoot him!" in the movie theater.
This needs to stop.
In the movie theater, I said, "Someone shoot him!" Like, someone shoot him! Like, and then I knew they're like, "Okay, it's not gonna work. I don't like this kid."
I was definitely talking to Aris. I was like, "Aris, this family needs to go." Like, I don't know how it's gonna happen.
Not even a mom. I didn't mind the mom.
Mom was okay.
The way they played her made sense to the story. It literally is only the kid. The mom's whole plot line of this, her awakening, all of that makes perfectly good sense. It's the kid that's the problem.
Yeah. So final things that we're going to talk about is box office because I think that Flash is next year, Shazam's next year. I don't remember if there's anything else coming next year besides those two for DC. But as far as box office, what are we looking at?
Aquaman also comes next year.
Okay. Yeah. Man. So what do you think, both of you? What does this look like for the box office? Is it going to be a smash? Is it going to be a good weekend, and then it's going to be a huge drop off after the fact? How do you think does this have legs? I guess good question.
Me first or Jorge?
I'll
go first. I'll go first.
Go first.
Currently, Black Adam is scheduled to be one of the lowest opening weekends of the DC universe. It is tracking at 55 to 70 million, which 70 may be fine. 55 is a death nail for this movie. I don't believe this movie will have legs domestically. They need to hope that The Rock's name pushes it internationally for more people to see it. Other than that, I don't know. This movie could, I don't want to say the death nail for DC, but it's going to be close because I think people forget how great the Batman did at the box office. And people are going to focus on this film. And right now, it's a reason that they're hyping up what they're hyping up about this film. It's a reason why all these other stories about other possible projects are coming out the same week that this movie is dropping. It's because they need this movie to do a lot better than what it's tracking at currently. And this movie is tracking extremely low. And that's off its pre-sales and everything are extremely low right now. So DC's a tad worried that it's going to open up in less than the Eternals opened up. And that's saying a lot.
That's interesting. Jorge, what's your thoughts on box office numbers and legs?
I think this will just because of The Rock's name and because of the way they've been marketing the end credit scene. I'm gonna go on a limb and say this will hit over 80 million this opening weekend.
Oh wow.
I'm probably gonna be way off, but you know what? I feel strong.
There you go, Jorge.
Yeah, someone has to be positive here. No, I think it's gonna be about 80 million. I think the biggest issue that they're gonna run into is they literally have until the second week of November before Black Panther comes out.
3 weeks. They got 3 weeks.
Yeah,
which is a great amount of time.
Yeah, so it's basically how much can they push in 3 weeks? Because as soon as Black Panther comes out, this is going to fall to the wayside. And I think everyone kind of feels that same way, especially with how that whole movie is going to play out. But no, I think this will hit 80 opening weekend. I think just The Rock's name alone will push it. I mean, shoot, the cartoon movie, which I hated, which he was in recently here, the superhero one.
You're talking about Super Pets.
Super Pets?
Yeah. I hated that, and that did well in the box office for the opening weekend, which blew me away because I thought that movie was terrible. But it had The Rock in it and Kevin Hart, so that's why I'm sticking to my 80. So we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know a number, but I do know The Rock does put butts in seats. Just off of his name. I think that some people are going to be curious to see, Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate. So there's things about it that, are going to want to intrigue people. I think bringing up, the person that we haven't talked about being in it is definitely something that will make people enticed. But the problem is that I want to say I give it less than 12 hours. That scene is going to be all over the place, if not already. I think it already leaked like a week ago.
It's been on the place for a week and a half now.
So I think as that is continuously a thing, that it's going to lose value to people wanting to go in and see it again. I think my biggest thing is this a movie that people are going to go into and want to rewatch it again right after the fact? If it's not, if there's some doubt in my mind that that's the case, I don't know if it'll have legs after the first week. I think the first week people will be intrigued just because there's nothing playing. But after the second week, I think that's going to be the interesting tale, because if it's not a movie that people want to rewatch again, and I think the only thing they have going for it is the JSA and the action and The Rock. because everything else in terms of the story, the progression, there's nothing else kind of bringing people necessarily in. So I think that's going to be the thing. So I don't know. I think it's going to do as well the first week. I just don't know after the first week what it's going to do.
I think they're hoping for the Venom effect. Even with that scene, they're hoping for the Venom effect. You know, the scene that made Venom, like, more people want to go see it, leaked a week and a half before the movie dropped, and Venom opened to $90 million. So that's what they're hoping for. And Black Adam doesn't, because I know what people are going to do. They're going to attempt to compare this to other Marvel films. Black Adam does not have to open up at 100 million. That's never been the case for this movie. It is closer to the Eternals, where around that 70 million is the mark that they're hoping it opens up at. I mean, The Rock biggest debut ever is only 60, and that was with Hobbs and Shaw. That's his biggest opening ever.
Oh, Fast 5 wasn't bigger than Hobbs and Shaw, really? Oh wow, I didn't know
they
that.
don't consider Fast 5 a Rock movie, sir. You know, it's another guy in that movie. In Fast 5, it's another guy and two other guys in that movie that tend to open up movies bigger than The Rock. So
keep my mouth shut.
As long as Paul and Venom was in it, they will never count that as a Rock. As a movie with stars The Rock, the biggest opening is Hobbs and Shaw at 60 million. So Rock films normally have legs. That's how it makes money, and it has legs internationally. So that's what I mean by this movie may not make much domestically. It may cop out at 150, but if it pulls 500 million in internationally, it's exactly what they want. Like that's the star power of The Rock, is that internationally it'll make more money. And as Jorge said, this is a movie that could be fun for a lot of people because it's extremely violent.
Yeah.
Never discount the point that it's extremely violent and it's a lot of stuff going on that may intrigue enough people to do repeat viewing. So don't look at Rotten Tomato scores, which are horrible right now. Pay way more attention to how the audiences react to the movie once it drops, because I think that's the turning point for Black Adam. If audiences like it, that 55 to 70 is predicted now can climb into the 80s to 90s, depending on how audiences react to it.
But at 80s, we're gonna do Prices Right.
Hey, Jorge, it may legit happen. But yeah, you're right, Lucas. I didn't even think about it like that. And internationally, actually might do pretty well.
Oh yeah.
I mean, at this point, all these superhero films are dependent on their international box office. No one is dependent on American box office at this point, because I mean, how many, like, even with Wakanda Forever, they're still depending more on its international box office. That's the draw. That's the way you make your money, is internationally, not necessarily domestically. And when you make more domestic than you do international, it shows that the movie may not have the worldwide appeal that you need to make sequels. So, and The Rock, if anything, is the biggest. It's a reason that Jungle Cruise was released on Disney Plus and still made $400 and something million.
Right.
And it didn't do it in the US. It did it because of The Rock's drawing power overseas. That's one thing you can't underestimate. So even if the joke came in at 60 million here, and all of a sudden internationally that shit start going crazy, that's what you get The Rock for. It's for that.
Yeah. So we don't have anything else, you guys. We left all spoilers at the floor. We appreciate you guys for watching, all 30 of you guys. Please make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. We've got a lot of stuff coming down the pipeline.
I had a weird thought. Real quick. Besides the Batman, could the Sumerian be the best superhero movie this year? Besides the Batman?
The what?
The Sumerian with Sylvester Stallone. It's literally better than Black Adam and Thor 4.
No. Don't disrespect Black Adam like that.
The Sumerian is better. Sumerian's story is better than Black Adam. And its humans aren't nearly as annoying.
That's true, but no, we're not gonna say no. We're gonna end on that note, you guys. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell button. We'll be back next week for something pretty big as well. I can't talk about it right now, but all right, guys.
This next week.
It's Wednesday, bro.
Falling out the top of the I can see skyline, 50-mile radius.